Hey, Rebel Rouser. I'm Alan Voivod, and this is Star Wars 7 by 7. We're at episode number 1599, and today we're doing a Resistance briefing on Synara's score. This is episode number 8 from season 1 of Star Wars Resistance, and there's been some major motion in the plot line that goes all across the whole story arc of the season so far. And so we're going to talk about that, summarize it for you here. If you have not seen the episode and don't want it spoiled for you, then save this one for a later date. Otherwise, if you're fine with me telling you what you need to know about it, even if you're not a fan of the series and you just want to know what's going on in the canon timeline, then hey, let's dive right into it, all right? Top takeaway from the situation is that the last episode that we saw, where they rescued this gal Synara from a pirate attack, and who turns out to be a pirate herself, right? Well, she is definitely doing the dirty work on the Colossus refueling platform. She has realized that the anti-spacecraft guns are down, and it just happens to coincide with some very poor timing in that the Aces are going to have to go off-platform to escort a very valuable shipment. What the shipment is, we don't necessarily know, and maybe it doesn't matter, but who knows? It just might. They have to go escort this shipment. And so it falls on Yeager's crew to get the anti-aircraft, anti-spacecraft guns up and running again. And this is kind of interesting in its own right, because we've just been given to understand that Yeager's crew was supposed to be getting jobs because they were working on racers that were being successful. And it seems like that's not really the case. In fact, Yeager has a relationship with Doza to the degree that Doza's relying on him to get the anti-aircraft guns up and running before before the Aces leave, which unfortunately doesn't happen. And Synara, as I mentioned, figures out what's happening and is able to get a message out to the pirates to say now is the perfect time to attack, which they do. And they do a lot of damage to the loading dock and get a ton of food and supplies stolen from the Colossus platform in the process. And so this unfortunate incident causes Doza to break down and reach out to Commander Pyre. And this is, of course, the gold-armored stormtrooper from the First Order, and says to him, hey, I can't deal with these pirate attacks anymore. I'm going to have to see about your proposal. And Pyre says, oh, okay, I'll be there personally to oversee the review of the proposal and presumably the implementation of said proposal as well. So we are moving to a swift conclusion, a swift break point for the first half of the season of Star Wars Resistance. And there have been unreliable announcements of episodes 10 and 11 of the show to be taking place on December 2nd and December 2nd and December 9th. Let me try that again. And they are allegedly called Secrets and Holograms and Station Theta Black, but we don't have any official confirmation for those as the titles, and we don't have log lines for those yet. But I will say that having 2 more episodes before we go into the December holidays does seem like it makes a bit of sense. So I wouldn't be surprised to think that the one that we know about, the Platform Classic, which is going to be airing next week, that's going to be the last half of the season. I don't think so. I think there's still some more story to tell from this part of the whole situation, the First Order story arc and their work with the pirates. The side notes for this include the fact that Synara, the pirate in disguise, is able to help the Fireball crew with a part that they needed, and ultimately ends up not exactly befriending them, but Tam sort of kind of takes a liking to Synara, and they end up being friends. And when the pirate attack happens, Tam's all about trying to rescue Synara, and Synara has to punch out one of her own pirate friends so that way she can maintain her cover as being just part of the random Colossus crew and integrating into it now that she's been registered on the Colossus. And so whether she's about to have second thoughts about helping the pirates because the Fireball people are being nice to her, I guess we'll have to wait and see about that. But so far, it looks like she is going to take advantage of this particular situation for as long as she can. I don't think she is going to go over to the light side of the house. I think she's going to stay with the pirates. My take on it, but you'll have to let me know what you think. And speaking of trust issues, it turns out that the one who does not trust Synara is probably the one that you would expect. It's BB-8. Of all of them, BB-8 is the one who is voiced a feeling of distrust for Synara, and Kaz says, well, I don't know if I trust her either, but let's help her out or see what we can do with her or something like that. So yeah, BB-8 of course has the right instincts on this, and it's going to be the droid's lot to have been ignored as part of this whole process, unfortunately. And Yeager also is starting to be a bit suspicious about things in general, just finds it altogether too coincidental that there was an attack by the pirates on the platform the moment the Aces left, and during this small window while their anti-aircraft guns were down, and thinks that there must be something afoot. It's not just one of those random unlucky things. And Kaz says, do you think there's another spy here? And Yeager's response is that Kaz was never the only spy on the Colossus platform, which could be something First Order related, could be criminal syndicate related. Heck, he may be hinting at something about himself for all we know, but Yeager's whole thing is supposed to be getting away from all of the fray, and so I don't think it has anything to do with him. But, it's one of those weird statements where you could find out later that, oh, it was Yeager all along, but no, it's probably not the case. I think it really has more to do with the First Order situation, and probably also some, criminal stuff like Black Sun, things like that. That's where I would say the actual spying is happening. And one last note for the episode. If you wondered about Kaz's fighting skills at all, well, let's put it this way. If you are in a dark alley with Kaz and a bad person or a bad creature comes creeping up on you, run, because Kaz is not going to be any help to you at all. And we see that very clearly in his utter and complete failures in fighting off pirates during this episode. So, yeah. That's all right. He's supposed to be a pilot, not a fighter. He's a pilot, not a fighter. Anyway. So that's going to do it for our Resistance briefing on Synara's score. This is episode 8 of season 1 of Star Wars Resistance. And that'll do it for this episode of the show as well. I hope you'll subscribe so that way you get it delivered straight to you wherever you happen to be catching this show. And I hope you'll consider supporting this daily dose of Star Wars joy by joining me on Patreon. That's patreon.com/SW7X7. For now, though, it just remains for me to say thank you so much for joining me, and may the Force be with you wherever in the world you may be.
This podcast is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2018 Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.